right, so whenever you're ready.
Okay, we're ready.
There you go.
So good morning. First, before I start, I do want to thank our high school AV students who are running all the cameras, the equipment today so that we can post this presentation live for all of our communities to see, and then also video that we captured where folks can view it at their pleasure. So we are here today to review information regarding the VATRE election, which is a November 7th election that's coming up regarding the school district. As we start, I want to first thank our Board of Trustees who do an outstanding job of working with district administration and campus administration to ensure that we have quality systems and quality education here at Lockhart ISD. Last year, they were the School Board of the Year, so reigning School Board of the Year, and very proud to work with each and every one of them each day. So first and foremost, I want to talk about what this is and what this isn't. And a VATRE is not a bond. We had a bond last November that we're incredibly thankful that the community passed and supported, so that we're building a new elementary school and a high school addition. But this is different than that. It's not only different in what the funds are used for, but it's also it's completely different tax rate as well. So a bond is just used for building new school buildings. It essentially gets permission from the community to take on debt and is funded through our interest and sinking tax rate or our INS tax rate. Bonds cannot be used for staff pay or any operating expenses. So, it's not like the district would say, well, we have this bond money, let's use that to give our staff a raise. That is not allowable by the state of Texas. So what we are here for this year and what we're communicating through this VATRE is an adjustment to the M&O tax rate that will give the district the ability to give staff raises and to operate the district with those funds. So again, two different issues. Both are related to the tax rate, but one is called the INS tax rate. That's what school bonds are for. It's not what we're doing this November. The other affects the M&O tax rate. That's the VATRE, and that is what is on the ballot this November. So why are we here? There are really three large reasons why we're here. But first, I want to talk about one issue that is affecting the district in terms of our ability in receiving state funding. So the state of Texas, by the comptroller's office, looks at and compares what our county appraisal district says everyone's property values are worth. And when there's a dispute there, the school district kind of gets stuck in the middle. So school districts do not have any control over local appraisal districts and how much they say property value is worth. In the state of Texas and the comptroller's office, and unfortunately, even though we've seen huge increases to property values in Caldwell County and within Lockhart ISD boundaries, unfortunately, the state of Texas disagreed and said that property values did not go up enough. So this is what this chart is showing. You see that the local appraisal district appraised our taxable value at $2.79 billion. Unfortunately, the state of Texas says that it should be $3.1 billion. So that gap in what we collected taxes on, the state is taking that money away because they feel that the local taxpayers were supposed to pay that. So I wanted to show quickly how Lockhart ISD is funded. So we have our local tax collection, and that fills up our bucket, and that's a little over 40% of our operating budget. So when everyone pays their taxes in Lockhart ISD, it's a little more than 40% of our budget. The other 60% comes from the state of Texas through state revenue in our school funding formula. So because of that, when the state disagreed with our local appraisal district on the values, they believe that local taxpayers should have had another $3.1 million in that local tax collection. And because that that did not happen. The state took away that money from the school district of state revenue. So that was a substantial loss of funding that the school district experienced, not only the last school year, but this school year as well. It's about 5% of our budget, $3.1 million reduction in state revenue from the state of Texas to Lockhart ISD. Another reason why we're here is when we look at the revenue per student. Lockhart ISD is ensuring that we're doing our best to provide everything that our students need, and ensuring that we provide the taxpayers with a good return on investment. And when you compare how much money we receive per student, you can see that we receive the least amount of funding per student with other school districts. So if you were to compare us with our neighbors, and just on average, we receive about $2,000 less. That $2,000, when you look at, we have over 6,600 students. That's well over a $13 million difference that other school districts have to run their school districts, and that's a substantial amount. So that's one of the reasons why we are here for the consideration of the VATRE as well. While we receive less funding, the expectations of our community and of our staff are still the same, and we're trying to kind of narrow that gap with the other school districts around who have a substantial amount more funding than we do here in Lockhart ISD. Even if the VATRE passes, we would still be one of the lowest funded school districts in the area, but would have a little more money to try to compete with, especially when it comes to staff pay. So those are the two big issues. We'll have one more that I'll talk about here coming up, but we'll take a break and just talk about how would this money be used. And number one, higher pay for all of our staff. The school district was not able to give a staff raise this school year because we lost 5% of our budget through that county appraisal district and the comptroller's office dispute. So first and foremost, our staff will receive a raise. So for classroom teachers, up to 5.7%, and 3% for all other categories of employees in the school district. Safety improvements for all of our schools. I will get into this here shortly. And third, this comes with not only a lower tax rate, but also a lower tax bill for everyone in our community. So I want to show just a quick chart of how our teachers compare in terms of salary. So you'll see the same school districts that I just showed and how we compare. You can see that Lockhart ISD teachers are towards the bottom when it comes to salary. Right now, across the state of Texas, there is a massive teacher shortage issue, and Lockhart ISD is experiencing difficulties with filling all of our positions, especially as a growing school district that is adding new positions every year because we're getting more and more students. Part of our ability to recruit and retain teachers has to do with how much we pay. And even if this were to pass, we would still be one of the lowest paying school districts in the area, but it would show our staff that we are attempting to compete with other school districts when it comes to pay. So this is incredibly important when it comes to recruiting and retaining staff from a pay perspective. The third reason why this VATRE is being considered is because of school security mandates. We know that school security is incredibly important, and the school district is not only trying to comply with state mandates, but do things that we know are important to ensure that our students and our staff are safe every day at school. The state of Texas, this last legislative session, mandated that school districts do a number of things. And when we look at what those mandates are, it's over $5 million in mandates for the school district. Unfortunately, although they mandated over $5 million of projects, and they only gave us about $135,000 to address those. So additional funding to provide these school security mandates are important. Some of them are one-time expenses. Some of them are recurrent expenses. So when we look at having a school security officer, it is mandated that every school now in the state of Texas has to have a law enforcement officer in their building. And we're thankful for our partnership with Lockhart Police Department to have school resource officers in our secondary schools, and our constables, and through a partnership with Caldwell County, we're able to have constables at our elementary schools as well. That's a yearly cost of over $400,000 that we had to pay this year, that we'll continue to have to pay every year in the future, because those are salary expenses. Dedicated school safety coordinator, we currently do not have that. We currently have our campus administrators, we have central office administrators who are sharing those duties, but we have another year to comply with that. Anti-scalable outdoor fencing is another mandate from the state. And while we have fencing, the reasons for fencing in the past were more to keep kids in, to keep them from chasing the ball out to the streets, to keep them safe from traffic and surrounding areas. Unfortunately, because of recent tragedies, now the state is requiring fencing to keep others from getting in. That requires things like 8-foot fences, or a minimum of 6 feet that is anti-scalable. Those will be all new upgrades that may be a one-time expense, but are substantial, over $1.4 million to upgrade the mandated fencing. And then audio video security systems, those are things like emergency call buttons that are now required by the state, working intercom and communication systems, cameras, those types of things. And again, one-time expenses, almost $3.4 million to upgrade all of our communication, intercoms, silent alarm buttons, etc. So a huge part of the need for extra revenue so that we can address some of these school safety mandates. When we look at the history of the total tax rate of Lockhart ISD, you can clearly see that since 2018, the school tax rate has continued to decrease. It was $1.33 all the way now to either 95 cents if the VAT already passes, or 92 cents if it does not pass. When you look at our tax comparison to other school districts in our areas, again, one of the lowest tax rates in the area, and that's also why we have one of the lowest funding rates in the area. Those things, while are not directly correlated, do have a relation to each other. So the tax rate comparison from last year, I want to show this because this is important. As I mentioned earlier, the school district has two different tax rates. We have an INS tax rate, and that's for things like the school bonds that have been passed recently. You can see that last year of our tax rate, the tax rate was $1.1197, so we'll say about $1.12 per $100 in value. Of that $1.12, 25 cents of that goes to pay for our to pay off debt for our bonds. You see that last year, before the bond, it was 25 cents, and this year after, we told the community that we could pass this bond without raising that tax rate, and that's exactly what we have done. This year, the tax rate is on the INS side is still 25.77, so it has no change on that INS rate. The change comes through the tax compression from last year's maintenance and operation rate that was 85 cents. This year going down to 66 cents. So the state of Texas has essentially used money that they have extra from our economy is doing very well, and it's paid down that tax rate for everyone across the state of Texas to help the taxpayers. That's a huge decrease in the tax rate from 85 to 66. That 3 penny where you'll see the kind of in yellow there, those 3 pennies, when you combine that 3 penny, that's what the VATRE is. That's the 3 cents that the school district is asking the community to consider investing to the school district. So those 3 things combined is a tax rate of 95 cents or 95.69 cents compared to last year's a total tax rate of $1.12. So that's the decrease that you see from last year to this year. It's important to note that, as I mentioned, Lockhart ISD receives most of our funding from the state of Texas. These golden pennies work in a similar way. When you look at the school funding formula, when our taxpayers consider increasing the tax rate by 3 cents, that'll generate about $1 million from local taxpayers. It'll also generate about $2 million from the state of Texas. So those 3 pennies will generate about $3 million to the school district annually. And I think that's important for community members to really kind of know and understand that you get a lot of value because $2 million will come from the state of Texas. One of the most important charts that we'll look at, and it can be a little complicated, so I'll try to walk us through this chart that we're looking at. The first column looks at 2022 actual numbers. So last year, when we look at our average market value, we look at the average taxable value of a home in Lockhart ISD, when we look at the tax rate, and then how much taxes people actually paid. That was last year. So last year, the average taxpayer paid $1,788 in school district taxes in Lockhart ISD. When you go up to that top line, the average market value of a home was $264,000. Okay, but the average taxable value was $160,000. I get a lot of questions oftentimes of, well, my neighbor sold their home for this amount. I'm being taxed for a similar amount, and that's not how it works. The taxable value is much different than the market value. So last year you can see almost 100,000 difference in the taxable value and the actual market value. What we did see was a big increase this year. If we slide over to the middle column, last year the market value was at 264. This year it went up to 313. What's interesting though is because of what the state has done to compress taxes and also increasing the homestead exemption that is up on the ballot as well from $40,000 to $100,000. Even with the average market value going up to 313, the taxable value is going down from 160,000 to 135. When you couple that with the school tax rate going down from $1.11 to 95 cents, the actual amount of school taxes due also goes down to $1,292. It's about a $500 average decrease for taxpayers in Lockhart ISD. And that's assuming that the VATRE is approved. If voters decide not to approve it, the average decrease will be $536 a year. So either way, taxpayers will see a decrease in their tax bill, either whether they pass the VAT or not. Either way, it's a decrease. The choice is how much of a decrease do you want to see as a taxpayer. If you make a choice to invest in the public schools in Lockhart ISD, you will see a decrease of about $500. If you make a choice not to, you'll see a decrease of $536. So that works out to little over $3.33 a month in additional savings. So I want to talk briefly about ballot language, because the ballot language is a little confusing in what you're voting for in the ballot language. We talked about it is a 3-cent increase in the M&O tax rate, but you'll never see 3 cents on the ballot. What you'll see first on this slide, we'll break it down. That 0.9569, that's the number we've been talking about. That's the total tax rate. So you're not going to see, ratifying a tax rate of a 3 cent increase. That's not what you'll see. You'll see the total tax rate of 95 cents on there first. When you look at the next line, we'll say this is an increase of 2.626% in the maintenance and operations tax revenue. So what this is the percentage increase to the total tax collection due to the school district. So this has a lot to do with a number of things. One, an increase in the number of properties in the community. So we continue to see new homes being built, new businesses being built, and those types of things. This is not a percentage in the increase in taxable value or tax payments for households to Lockhart ISD. That can be a little confusing. So wanted to talk about that. The next thing is this last number related, an additional $614,000. Again, this is an increase in the total tax collection. This is not an increase to what local taxpayers are paying on their own bill or anything like that. So again, to kind of tie it all together, this voter approval tax ratification election, or VATRE, we like to call a voter approval to raise earnings for all. And that's because the funds generated from this election will go directly to give our staff a raise for classroom teachers up to 5.7%, and for all other employees, 3% raise. It is to improve safety requirements that are mandated by the state across the district. And I think very important, it'll do two things. One, lower the tax rate, and then also lower the tax bill. And I think that this is the first time we've been able to communicate that. We've been able to tell folks in the past that, the elections will lower their tax rate because their actual tax rate is going down. But because of rising property values, sometimes that overcame the tax rate. What's different this year is that not only is the tax rate going down, but the actual taxable value on properties is going down, which means your tax bill will go down this year. The choice is, how much do you want it to go down? $500 or $536? $500 if you approve it, $536 if you decline this VATRE for the school district. Voter registration is quickly coming up. October the 10th, voter registration ends, so we ask everyone to ensure that you get registered to vote. There are a number of other important issues on the ballot as well. Election day is November the 7th. I want to invite everyone to visit our website, lockhartisd.org. We do have a VATRE page that has a lot of information, certainly everything that I went over today, plus more short videos. There's an email where you can ask the district any questions that you may have. Lots of information. There's a calculator on there where you can put in your property values and your appraised values, and we can tell you how much savings you're going to see this year. So just a lot of information there that I hope you're able to visit. At this time, I want to pause and see if there are any questions, maybe online, that we may have received that I can answer, or live. Questions? All right, well, again, we do have the website. Feel free to email us if you have any questions. vatre@lockhart.txed.net. Again, thank you so much for attending today, and I hope to see you soon. Thank you.
And we're out.